To be alive is to be faced with many limitations. When I talk about limitations, I am referring to those things that stand as hindrances, oppositions, impositions, and stops to your movement, progress, or ascension in life. You know them. You have cried over them in the dead of the night, throughout sleepless nights. You did not create some of those limitations yourself. They were inflicted upon you from external sources. And so, you feel powerless over them. While some of these can be excused, how do we explain some of those other self-inflicted limitations you are battling with? As humans, there are times when perceived dangers or risks that may be non-existent may threaten our lives and deter us from making decisions that can better our lives. What we fail to understand is that a failure to face our fears can be more terrifying in the long run. But I strongly believe that the reason why we have limitations is not only so that we can test our strengths or weaknesses against them, but so that we can break them. Yes, you heard me right. Just as rebels believe that laws are meant to be broken, so goes the reason behind limitations, so that they can be broken. To break a limitation is to rise above self-limiting beliefs and even the limits imposed on you by your environment and circumstances. This will first require that you work on your mind. We are a product of our minds. The Bible tells us in Proverbs that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Whatever you are today is a reflection of the thoughts running through your mind. So, if you want to improve the quality of your life, you must improve the quality of your thoughts. You cannot have defeatist thoughts and expect to be a winner. If your thoughts are limiting, there is no way you will break the limits in your life. It took the discernment of Caleb to help the Israelites get rid of the limiting report presented by the 10 other spies after their return from Canaan. In their own words, the 11 spies reported that, "And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come of the Nephilim, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." Numbers 13 verse 33. The report of these spies was a self-limiting report, emanating from a false perception of who they truly were and what they were capable of doing. Today, there are many people like that. In their own eyes, they are like grasshoppers before the challenges in their lives. But if they must break that limitation, then they must begin to think like Caleb. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it." Numbers 13 verse 30. You are well able to take over, possess, overcome and succeed. Just believe it in your heart and watch it happen. Stop being too critical of yourself and get rid of self-limiting beliefs. You must be discerning and wise enough to know who to listen to and why. If you must break the limits in life. That someone told you something cannot be done does not mean that it is the truth or the person is right. Many people would want to judge your future by their failures. The fact that someone failed in his or her attempt to do something does not mean that the thing is impossible. Beware of people who are always telling you cannot do it, or this cannot be done. The fact always remains that the people around us want to protect us and discourage us because of their own limiting beliefs. But you must recognize your God-given strengths and unique potentials. You are capable of more than you would ever think. Don't allow anyone tell you otherwise. Complacency can keep you in the confines of limitation. When you get used to what you are familiar with, you will never break the limits. The familiar is not always a friend. It can be a foe too. Your comfort zone can be your limitation. There are things that God may want to accomplish in your life, but He can never do them until you leave that comfortable place. God may want to enlarge your business and influence, but the place where you have continued to find comfort may be His limitation to the things He can do for you. As long as you remain there, you are frustrating His plans and purposes. If Abraham had remained in Haran all his life, there is no way he would have become the father of all nations. But in obedience to God's instruction, he left the comfort of his home to a place he didn't know, trusting that God will show him another place. That singular act of leaving his comfort zone broke the limits that would have deprived his growth, blessings, and expansion. Break the limits by being willing to ask difficult and uncomfortable questions. Those who always succeed in breaking the limits were always challenging the status quo. Some cultural and traditional practices have been deemed sacred, even when they are harmful, cruel, and backward. They were created by men for several reasons. Not all of them are counterproductive. Hence, a need to know the difference. That's why asking the right questions will help. Many who cling to some of these wrong, long-time practices will find that they cannot make any meaningful progress in their lives. And it will remain so until they learn to ask the right questions. Why is this like this? How beneficial is it to me and everyone? Is it making us better? Finally, because you are a child of God, you must always remember that there are God-given mandates that serve as ancient landmarks that must never be moved. Whatever limits or laws that God has put in place are not supposed to be moved or shifted. To break them is to create problems for your life.